Life in remote places from civilization, on the one hand, is peace, silence and proximity to nature. On the other hand, there is often poverty, unavailability of education and the need to overcome difficulties in order to get some basic benefits. It's hard to believe, but more recently, the children from the Chinese village of Atular regularly passed a path full of health hazards to get to the nearest school. We tell you how they had to go down and up the rattan stairs. Where did people come from in places so remote from civilization? And how did their life take a sharp turn thanks to the internet? The village of Atular, located in Sichuan province, is safely hidden from prying eyes in the mountains. To get to it, you will have to climb to a height of about 800 meters from the base of the cliff. The village itself is in absolute terms above 2,000 meters above sea level. The length of the settlement from east to west is more than a kilometer, with the east high and the west low. The height difference is hundreds of meters, which is remarkable in the lowest and highest parts of the village. The weather may vary. In general, the climate is temperate. Its history began 200 years ago, when a group of settlers decided to protect themselves as much as possible from aggression from anyone. They chose a place remote from prying eyes with a mild climate and fertile lands that are difficult to attack and at the same time easy to defend. So they were able to isolate themselves from the world. But when normal roads began to appear in this region as a result of democratic reforms, Achol parted without one, because of its peculiar location. For a long time, local residents used rattan ladders to reach civilization, periodically replacing areas that were completely leaky. In total, there were 17 stairs and the road looked and was as dangerous as possible due to the inaccessibility of horrifying stories. For example, one day a baby fell ill in the village. Several adults carried him for treatment, but did not have time to get to the foot of the mountain. The child died on the way. The residents had no other choice but to carry the unfortunate child back. And how many people have died falling off a cliff in 200 years? The existence of the village is already difficult to count. Perhaps the village would have lived its own life and the locals were constantly in danger at every descent into civilization, if not for the media. In 2015, Atular became famous all over the world after photos appeared on the web depicting the terrible journey of village children to school. To get to classes, the children had to climb shaky ladders and rocks. Add to this a backpack on your shoulders. At the same time, the children spent more than 2 hours on the descent. Later, a reporter from the state-owned Chinese television company CCTV was sent to the mountain to cover the situation. The journalist burst into tears during an attempt to climb to Atular. The journey seemed so dangerous to her. The head of the village said that 7 or 8 residents have crashed in recent years having lost their grip. During the ascent, many were also injured. Once he almost fell himself, because the way to school was too difficult. The children visited their families in Atular only twice a month. The rest of the time they spent in the dorm at the school. Because of such conditions, some children did not go to school at all. Even if you close your eyes to the road, life in Atular was poor and hard. Traditional adobe houses did not even have sealed windows, that is, there were only holes in the walls for light to penetrate. There was no electricity or running water. Many families had only a bed of furniture. People did without tables. Adults and children had to squat during meals. The basics of their diet were potatoes, corn, sauerkraut. They had to lower the grown products to the foot of the mountain. Everything was sold for a penny, since the buyers understood that no one would lift the cargo back. The hype raised by journalists quickly gave the first positive results. In 2016, the authorities replaced the old staircase with a new one made of metal and numbering 2,556 steps, which are much safer compared to its predecessor. Of course, the way back to the village is still not an adventure for the faint of heart. But now the chances of falling on the road and crashing to death are much less, and the time has become faster. Thanks to the new staircase and the popularity gained on the internet, the village began to attract the attention of tourists. Fortunately, she has great potential in this regard. A difficult road more than pays off with the beauties that are at the top. Mainly we are talking about picturesque canyons and virgin forests. In 2020, the life of an ordinary village has changed dramatically once again. She fell under the action of the state program to combat poverty. As part of the project, the authorities have relocated more than 80 households to a new residential complex. I had to pay the equivalent of $300 per person. The area of their new apartments varies from 25 to 100 square meters. There is everything you need for a comfortable stay: kitchen, toilet, running water, electricity, and gas. And of course, children can safely go to school. But some of the families decided not to leave their homes. The people who remained in Atulur, among other things, are engaged in the further development of the tourism sector. It would seem that life has become better for everyone, life has become more fun, but human rights activists do not treat the situation so unambiguously. The authorities comprehensively discussed the move by the residents of Atulur, but nevertheless people clearly began to live better, because there was simply nowhere worse. What is happening with Atulur now? The government has funded the electrification of Atulur and 2 other neighboring villages. A water supply with drinking water was also laid, and electricity became available, among other things, thanks to the installation of solar panels. Some villagers are also engaged in agriculture, grow nuts, green peppers, corn, work on olive plantations, in orange orchards that have appeared in the district. Sheep braids are also bred. The government has allocated money for the repair of an abandoned cable car, which will facilitate the transportation of livestock, various goods and building materials. But many associate the future settlement with tourism. So, the village on the rock began to be visited by more than 100,000 tourists a year. In particular, the inhabitants of the village have their own shops, plus they are always happy to treat tourists with local dishes. There are houses where you can spend the night for a fee. Young people feel great. They found an advanced way to earn money, to broadcast their lives on the internet. The benefit of those who want to look at the life of a remote village in China is enough. Yes, and 4G networks, electricity have become available. It was the broadcasts of local people about their village life that gave a new wave of popularity to the mountain village, and they also helped to sell local products. Even before the relocation, an equipped kindergarten appeared in the village, where there is normal furniture, toys, a TV, although until recently they did not even have high chairs. Judging by the latest videos, there are few families in the village permanently living on the slope, most apparently still moved down. After all, there is a school and a hospital there. The villagers go up only for work and as a kind of dacha to get nostalgic. It is not known exactly how many people live on the slope now, but one thing is clear: every year there will be fewer of them. The government is systematically turning the village on the rock into a tourist destination. To do this, young, initiative guys were even sent to special training. In general, young people look at what is happening with enthusiasm. And the older generation with a touch of nostalgia. The government is implementing its anti-poverty program. So, according to official statistics for 2021, the annual per capita income of the villagers amounted to an amount equivalent to about 130,000 rubles or $1,500. For comparison, people in Atulur used to live on less than $1 a day. But there is one point. Most of them now live in city apartments, which is clearly more expensive than a house without electricity and water, but in any case, parents can send their children to school without fear that their every step may be the last. And it's worth a lot. In general, as a place for ecotourism, the village looks very attractive. It is beautiful, original here, and even on the internet, the village has managed to get infected and become one of the points of tourist China. That's all, friends. If you liked the video, be sure to share it and support the channel with a like. See you soon.